All right. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'll call to order the regularly scheduled committee meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, July 6th, 2022, at 7 p.m. Roll call, please. Clerk Mosko.
Trustee Burbatt. Here. Trustee Caveney. He's here somewhere. Trustee Crowley.
Here.
Trustee Hilly.
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Killily.
Here.
Mayor LaRue.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record reflect that Trustee Caveney is in person at this meeting. All right. Moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Jean.
Okay, mark your calendars for July 17th from 11 to 4. We're having our garden walk. We're going to have some crafters over at the Green, 4 of them, and we have 9 gardens, possibly maybe a couple more coming in this week. So it'll be a fun event. It's $10 per person, and this is our fundraiser, one of them. Okay, and with that, I got a couple of things I want to bring up. I want to thank Sandy, Trustee Crowley, for responding so fast when I was appalled by the graffiti over at the Village Green in the gazebo. I love the gazebo. That is one of my favorite places in the village, and it just broke my heart to see it in that condition with beer cans strewn all over. And I especially liked the one that was in the tree. So, and I'm still trying to figure out how they got it in the tree. But, you know, thank you for looking at, last night when I went by, because we have our sign out there and it's lit up, so Mike likes to check on it. I noticed that the lights in the gazebo were not lit.
What time was that?
It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock last night.
I have to check to see if they're on a timer or on a
Yeah, 'cause
solar or a...
Well, it had
I
stormed,
didn't
so
notice
it may
it. I
have,
was over there around that time and I didn't notice it. Usually,
it was storming, so maybe
Oh,
it
maybe.
had blown a,
yeah.
what is that? What is fuse? Thank you. A breaker.
Could be.
So that, you know, now my second item I'd like to, or third item I'd like to talk about is the vehicle stickers. I unfortunately lost my letter, and thanks to Jackie, I was able to, and Alan, I was able to get my passcodes and that and order them. Are we going to stick with this system, or are we going to be able to purchase them in the village hall like usual? I had a lot of people asking me that. And like, once again, I'm like, I don't know, I don't work for the village. Your best bet is the email and ask.
So we tried this as an option mainly because of COVID.
Right.
We thought residents would feel more comfortable doing it at home, online. We were given a pretty good assessment from Third Millennium on how great the program is. It is my opinion that it's not working out the way it was meant to work out.
With the mail.
And the mail's the other problem.
Yeah,
So-
the mail, I mean, I get informed delivery and it says you're getting 4 pieces of mail. I don't get 4 pieces of mail until maybe 2 days later. Then I get 8 pieces of mail. So, you know, depending on the U.S. Postal Service is a little hairy for that.
So I'll be asking the board to, we had to sign a 3-year contract with Third Millennium. This is the last year. I'll be asking the board to bring it back in-house. The other reason we did it, obviously, was the long lines at the deadline dates. It's very hot out at that time, and it was tough to watch all those people standing down into the parking lot.
Right.
So, I'll be asking the board to bring it back in-house next year.
Okay. Now, my third, I also found out, okay, how can I word this without sounding
Delicately.
bad? Pardon?
Delicately.
Okay. I know that you're giving committees free vehicle stickers. So I thought, I don't care if I get a free vehicle sticker, it doesn't bother me at all. I'd rather pay for it, but others on committees are like, oh, do I get a free one? I've been serving on committees for probably 10 plus years. And this is the first time that I would be compensated. But to find out, oh, it doesn't go in effect until 2023. Do the zoning and building commissions, do they have to wait a year before they get their $50 stipends to them?
This was a brand-new ordinance.
Right.
Totally redone ordinance for the committees, and that's what we decided to do, that the appointees this year would have to serve a full year to get their free vehicle sticker.
What about the past ones that have been on committees forever? I mean,
There's new people on these committees now, so.
Well, right.
So it wouldn't be, I don't think, fair that you'd get one and they didn't get one, so I think we just agreed, right? that maybe
I mean,
you-
the ordinance was written, if you served on the committee for a year, yeah, that would be your thank you kind of thing.
right.
So that's the new ordinance. I don't think it's retroactive back to other people. Otherwise, I don't know how we would stop that. And when we talked about it, a lot of us, and I'm not sure if you were on one of the committees when we were talking about this, that, you know, we're definitely trying to get more people involved, and this was a way to encourage and thank our residents.
I've been on many
Yeah,
committees.
so I think, you know, it was a thought of a thank you at the end of their term, and to encourage people that it's, you know,
Right.
something nice that you get. So,
But-
this ordinance applies only to the committees after completing this year, because we didn't make it a retroactive, so people would get it.
Well, maybe that should have been explained to committee members that have served for years.
But
Because
but
I was under.
you
the
stood right there
impression-
and told us that you didn't want the free sticker.
Right, I
Okay.
don't. I don't care
Okay.
if I get it, but for other, you know, maybe it should have been explained to people who have served on committees for years that this was how it was gonna be. I mean, I look at these ordinances and they're like miles long and reading.
Yes, they are.
And
You
I
are
skim 'em.
absolutely correct.
I skim them, you know, and I know it takes a long time for these to be, you have to rewrite them and rewrite them and rewrite them. I understand that. But, you know, I was shocked that, you know, to find out that it wouldn't be in effect for people until 2023.
Well, it's
Do they-
really in effect now, it's just once you serve, instead of doing it in advance, it's, you know, if you've served for the 2022 year, you'll get your free vehicle sticker for the following year.
So what happens if I decide I don't want to be on a committee anymore?
Well, I mean, that was the whole purpose, is that so that we would have people commit to a year. You know, thank you for committing to the year, kind of a thank you for your service.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let's see, wait. I think that's it.
Thank you, Gene. Anyone else tonight? Yes, sir. And why does your name escape you? Fred? Fred?
Fred Legali. Right. I'm not here to complain about fireworks, because my street's still standing. My complaint is, I should say, 3 times now this year, I complained about loud music, mariachi bands and what have you, and the police have responded very well to it. Apparently, the subjects think it's a big joke, because when I mentioned it to them, they spoke French and sign language, which, sadly enough, I understood what they were saying. So, saying all of that, I'm suggesting possibly that, we'll say after the second time or the third time with the same individual, that they be cited the ordinance violation, and let them come to court. And let them decide in the courtroom whether they should be fined or not be fined. Because otherwise, this is a big joke. It's the same individuals that had a race car, Mustang, here about a month ago, racing up and down the street like it was a speedway. My neighbor and myself stopped him, told him about it, and he spoke French. So in that case, I think it was a week later, he smashed the car up. I believe you're familiar with it, on Spalding. You're not familiar with it? Ran into another car right into the fence between 146 and 145th. Okay, well, anyway, he did. And I know some people there just think it's a big joke, our ordinances. It's not enforceable, and I think the police have a better, which I know they have better things to do than to tell people to turn down the music. They go around the block and they crank it back up again.
So Chief, could you, I know we've had this conversation before, can you explain what your policy is?
Our policy for the first time is to give a warning, but we ask that if there is something, call us when it's going on. Don't address it yourself, let us handle it. If they don't comply, then we issue a ticket. But every time, as you would know, it's in our CAD system that if we responded to an address at a prior date, and they've already been given a warning, and it's a continuous problem, that we will go straight to citation. We're also in the middle of changing our noise ordinance, so it's not subjective anymore to what one may believe is loud, to what another believes isn't loud. We have it measurable now to
Decibels.
Decibels.
So we can buy a decibel reader and say if they're above this amount of decibels that we're going on in citation.
Well, I'm speaking of a block away. I'm a block away. You know, 12 o'clock at night, you decide to have karaoke. You know, like you say, I don't want to go down there and because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely call us, let us handle it, and,
But I feel, excuse me, Chief, I feel as long as I have to get dressed to get out of bed to go down there, you know, they would say, game on, and then the EMT will come and take care of me, and I'll be all right, you know.
we'll rather handle it for you, and, you know, without looking up the
appreciate it.
address and the name, I don't know what the outcomes were. It might have been issued a citation on it already.
All right, excuse me, the response is good, don't get me wrong,
Right.
I won't cite the police department for not responding, but they think it's a big joke. I mean, when I say they, the individuals living in that house, or how many, I don't know, but, I mean, probably the trustees think I'm a real mean guy. I'm not. I'm a very friendly guy. I help my neighbors out. I shovel their snow for them because they're not anxious to do it. I rebuilt a couple bikes for the grandchildren. I got one in the garage waiting to be picked up. So I'm helpful. You can use my tools, anything you want, but these individuals don't want to get along.
You look into that, Chief?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, sir. Anything else?
All right, no, that's it. I
All right.
guess that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I'll close the floor to public comment. Move on to trustee business. Trustee Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, under my agenda, I'd like to discuss the water rate increase. As you saw under my agenda, we have included a chart of proposed water rate increases for your consideration. We discussed these potential rate increases at our last Finance Committee meeting. Our current rate is $9 per 1,000 gallons of water used. We would like to propose for the board's discussion and consideration to increase the rate to $9.75 per 1,000 gallons. As you may know, we base our rates on what the Mid-Mark Water Commission charges us. So currently, Mid-Mark is increasing their rates from $4.63 to $5, and typically we double our rates, which we are not doing. I'd like to remind the residents that in the audience watching on the video that Midlothian does not make any money on this new proposed rate. And in fact, it is a pass-through rate because of what Midmark and the City of Chicago are each charging. We recognize that this increase is not something that any of us want to pay. However, we will be sharing with residents shortly ways in which they can manage their water usage. For example, on your phone, you can download an app called Ion Water. I did it. It's free. It's through Apple or Android. And it's amazing how much more you think about your water when you can see literally in real time how much water you just used an hour ago, you know, to water your flowers. So it's a great way of helping you manage your own water and hopefully decreasing your charges. Also, we will be including on the village's homepage links to YouTube videos that show you actually how to download the Ion Water, how to use it. We also will have videos related to using things like ring barrels or how to check for orbages or running toilets, how to use a low flow shower, and any other potential tools that will help our residents manage their water more effectively. So based on that, does anybody have any questions or would like to discuss the proposal of $9.75 per 1,000 gallons? And I'll just leave it there for now.
This is the recommendation from the Finance Committee, right?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone have an issue with this?
No, we're picking 975,
Yes.
no issue.
So if not hearing anything, I'd like to make the motion to put the suggested water rate increase of $9.75 on the consent agenda next week. I'll make the motion.
You don't need a motion for that?
Oh.
Okay.
All right. You got that, Maria?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else tonight, Trustee Johnson?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Burback?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Hilly?
I have just a few things. First off, I'm looking for, I'll make the motion to approve the 147th Street Water Main Replacement Construction Engineering Services contract to Robinson Engineering for a cost not to exceed $45,000.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Clerk Roscoe.
Trustee Hilly,
Aye.
Trustee Caveney,
Aye.
Trustee Burbett,
Aye.
Trustee Crowley,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Killily. Aye. Motion carries.
And the second item was in the memo in the board docs packet. Superintendent Sperry has budgeted for two Skag 61 Turf Tiger 2 riding mowers to replace the two 2012 Grasshopper riding mowers. The mowers will be purchased, if approved, from Alta Equipment Company at a total cost not to exceed $31,476.99. Both the quote and the memo are included in the board docs, if anybody has any questions about that or any discussion. Also, he's reached out to a contractor that has offered to purchase the used mowers for about $400 worth, or $400 more than the Alta Equipment Company, but we wouldn't be able to get that anyway because it's a cooperative purchasing agreement. So if we got the $2,000, the price of the units would go up. So any questions?
No.
No. Did Maria leave?
Take the notes for it. You want it on the consent?
Yes. Could we have it placed on the consent agenda for next
We
meeting?
have a village clerk, too. We can- All right.
That's all I have, sir.
I don't have the email in front of me. We're on a short list to receive money from Congressman Rush's office for the, help me, 149th Street water main replacement?
I didn't see that. Was I included in that thread?
Yeah. Good news is
Slipped.
Superintendent Sperry applied to Congressman Rush's office for some money to do some more water mains. So we're on a short list. We're hoping that action will be approved this summer, and we'll get them going, hopefully, well, it takes time for the engineering, but
A lot of emails.
it's in there.
All right.
I'll find it later.
Thank you.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Has anybody reached out to the carpet vendor to find out what they're gonna do relative to the debacle in the Village Hall front office about the installation of the new carpeting?
The installation was done on a recommendation by a village employee, so basically, we got what we got. So there's nothing there's nothing for them to do.
Well, I'm confused. When we ordered the carpeting, didn't we pay the carpet vendor to have their installer install it, or did we pay somebody else to install it?
Their installers installed it.
And,
That's the pattern they picked.
well, I have no issue with the pattern, but the pattern in there doesn't line up. It was not installed properly.
They asked the employee how do they want it installed. Did they want it linear or there's another name for another type of pattern, and the employee told them to do it linear. So that's what they did.
What's the status on the rest of it? Because it's not all done.
Andy took care of the issue you had with Mark Surf's desk. I'm
No,
not
no, not that. The rest of the carpeting, all the carpeting's not installed. Under the 3 admin employees' desks, still
I-
brown.
I don't know what the schedule is for that. I can ask Joe, though. I have not heard.
Well, it's a shame we paid all that money for carpeting and it looks kind of ridiculous.
Beauty is an eye or beholder, trustee.
Has nothing to do with beauty.
Some people think Picasso was a terrible artist. All right. Any other thing? Nothing else? Trustee?
No, sir.
Okay. Trustee Caveney.
Thank you. First, I'm sad to announce that Superintendent Weiner is going to be moving on to a new opportunity. His last day here at the village will be this Friday. I want to publicly thank Superintendent Weiner for a lot of things. He's taught me a whole lot about a building department and how it should be run. He has helped immensely in updating all of the village's building ordinances, some of which still dated back to the 1940s and the 1950s. He was very instrumental in getting a lot of our building codes and ordinances updated so that we could be successful in our pursuit with the community rating system. He's been very helpful and instrumental with helping the village with its pursuit in the community rating system and keeping that program going. He's assembled a good staff, albeit our building department staff is fairly new. I mean, they've, with the exception of Karina, the other three have not worked in a building department before, but he's done a good job in training them and continuing to train them. They still, they still have much to learn, but compared to the knowledge and background and expertise that Super Weinert had, he's got a pretty stellar resume, so it'd be hard for anybody to match his qualifications. So I just want to thank him for everything that he's done for the village and for the building department. And his open position will be posted on the village website as soon as possible. I'm in the process of reviewing the job description to ensure that there are no changes that need to be made, and if there are none, then I'll ask Jackie if she'll post it tomorrow on the village website and on Facebook. And then we'll get it out to all the different organizations that we used before. We'll get it out to ICC and to the different trade organizations that the village is part of. With regards to the village's new economic development committee, I know I mentioned this before at meetings. The village passed an ordinance recently where we have reenacted our economic development committee. It will be a voting committee of 7 members, 2 trustees, 2 business members from our business community, and 3 business owners from our business community, and 3 residents. I'm happy to announce that the 2 business owners that have agreed to join us are Dennis Sublich, who owns Gracie's and Cousins, and Mike Manias, who owns Happy Days. So I am reaching out to our resident community and asking any residents who are interested in joining our Economic Development Committee if they would please send an email to me expressing their interest and, give me any information they feel is pertinent. What your background is, what your interests are, what your ideas would be, and I will reach out to every single resident and we'll have a conversation with them. And then the board will decide, we'll make the choice of the 3 residents. Everyone's appointment will be for a year, so that's not to say that we don't want more of our business owners and more of our residents to participate. We want participation from everybody and from as many people as possible. We are limiting the voting members to 7 just because for quorum reasons and for voting reasons, and because we have to follow OMA, it's easier to have a group of 7 than a group of 15. But every year, as people continue to be interested in this process, we can certainly rotate who the voting members are, on an annual basis. But we do want more. We do want a lot of residents to participate. We want everyone to be part of the process. My email address is on the website, but it is kcaveney@villageofmidlothian.org. All right, that's that for notes. On the agenda, got the tent ordinance up first. After our last discussion, I went through this and I updated it, made a couple of revisions to it. you know, and based on conversations with the mayor, and we thought what would be reasonable, the tent ordinance is gonna require anybody who puts up a tent that is larger than 200 feet, or any tent that is 200 feet or larger and is located in any zone, will require a permit. That's how the language reads now.
Right, I had a question about that.
Yeah,
In reference to the residential, the biggest pop-up is a 10 by 20. Okay, should that number be changed to 201?
well, that's why we're discussing it.
I mean,
I've been
say-
asking
say
you
for-
guys for input, and this is the first time anybody's brought that up to me.
No, in section A, right, in the front,
Mm-hmm.
residential use pop-up canopies that are less than 200 square feet in area are exempt. Well, if you have a 10 by 20, which is the largest pop-up
Right.
available, you're not less than 200, you're at 200.
Well, we are exempting people putting up pop-ups in their yard.
They're less than 200. So if I were to put, if this ordinance were in effect and I have a 10 by 20 pop-up and I
That's
put it up,
200.
that's 200.
So we need to change it to 201.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
No,
do.
you just need to change it to over 200, that's all.
Or under. Well, the point is, if I'm right at the threshold,
Right.
like, for instance, if I were to have a graduation party for my daughter this weekend, and I put up a 10 by 20, I'm at 200, right?
Right.
Which is, unless somebody else knows of a bigger one, that's the biggest pop-up I've seen.
I believe that is true.
Right.
So it's a simple fix. All you have to do is have the language reflect that rather than measuring 10 by 20 or larger, it simply says larger than 10 by 20.
There you go.
Larger than
Larger
200
than
square feet.
200 square feet.
Larger than 200 square feet
And
is,
10 by 20, right.
is not,
I'm just gonna change it to 201.
It's a simple one, it's one way, you know, it's
I
like
got it.
1 foot one way and 1 foot the other, however you want to word it. That was just my concern. Because technically, this reads residential use pop-up canopies that are less than 200 square feet are exempt. Well, what happens if you're right at 200? So you're not at 199.
200 or less,
Yeah, well, okay.
or
Well,
anything over, larger than 200
Larger
is
than.
not exempt.
Right. I mean, either way,
Either way.
the way it reads, it has to be like, 2 feet one way or the other. You know what I mean? That was it.
Okay, and we do want to require residents to have to get a permit if they're gonna put in a tent that's over 200 feet.
Yes.
Usually those are commercial-sized tents that
Right.
we have to rent from somebody, and we want to make
200,
sure that they're.
201 square foot or more, because then that leaves the 10 by 20 pop-up as safe.
Anything
Right.
larger than 200.
I get that on the
Yeah,
size. I'm
right.
just concerned, do we want to require residents to have to get a permit for a tent? Some communities require, Tinley Park requires everyone to get a permit for a tent if it's over 401 feet.
Right.
It's 401 feet or larger. That's pretty big. Up to 400 square feet is a pretty big tent.
That is a big tent.
It's a big tent. I mean, usually you're
10 by
renting
20 is a
that-
big tent.
Huh?
A 10 by 20 is not a small tent, whether it's pop-up or
Right.
rigid.
But to Gary's point, the last time we discussed this, a 10 by 20 is like one of those carport tents that people put over their driveway sometimes in the summer. I mean, that's 200 feet. So do we want to make people get a permit for that? A resident get a permit for that? No, because that would be considered, some type of a pop-up. But what about for a business? If a business wanted to put up a 10 by 20, do we still want to make them get a permit because we want to make sure that they have that securely?
Yes, because they're putting patrons in there.
Okay, so
And-
even if it's 200 feet, we want a business has to get a permit regardless of the size?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't. Yes.
I mean, because there are a couple of places in the back that have, 10 by 10 pop-ups set up. Do we care about permits for those? I mean, this is not, just so everyone understands, this is not a money-making venture for the village. This is a safety issue. We want to make sure if businesses are putting up tents on their property for their patrons to be able to sit outside, we want to make sure that it's a safe environment.
just a
If-
clarification, trustee, was it your intent to make the commercial tents for commercial use have a different standard than residential?
Yes.
Okay.
Except the over 200 square foot.
Right, but.
But also, you see it in here, we talk about permits and we also talk about special use. There's certainly, the ones in the commercials, I think should go through the special use because they also, you know, they're, right.
Okay, if a business wants to put up a tent just for a weekend, do they have to get
No,
a special
not
use?
special use.
No, but if they want to put up a tent for a whole season.
Right.
Then, so for example, I'm gonna use Durbin's as an example. They usually just put up a tent once a year for the FLA every March. So we don't require them to get a special use, but they put up a huge tent, so they absolutely, and they comply every year, they get a permit.
Right.
And it's inspected.
All tents included, all tents intended to be part of an outdoor cafe and or accessory to a restaurant or bar shall be permitted by special use. I 100% agree with that because I've seen the videos of massive tents collapsing on people. And, we don't want that to happen here.
Okay. So are there any other concerns with any language? Does anybody want any other language changed in addition to what trustee Hilly
I like,
requested?
under section A, I think now, I could be wrong, Attorney Valdez, but it says any tent that is, should that be just changed to any tent that is 201 square feet or larger and is located in any zone? Wouldn't that just solve the problem?
Yeah.
You could do it that way too. You could
Right,
do it that
that's
way,
all,
too.
That's fine.
that was only my
Yeah,
concern.
and I got it, I'm asking if there's any other questions or issues with regards to any of the other language.
No.
All right,
No.
then that's the only revision we need to make.
Everything
Correct.
that's on here is what we talked about the last time. I'm fine with all of it.
Okay, I just want to call out to your attention on, under the regulations and permit requirements section, under paragraph D, all erected tents must be behind the building lot line or located in such an area that is approved by the building department and fire department and at a minimum at least 15 feet behind the front lot line of the property. This discussion came up because of a special use application that was submitted to the village where a business wants to install a tent, and the tent will definitely be behind the building line. And again, I'm gonna use Durbin's as an example. Their tent is not ever behind their building line. It sticks out beyond the building line, but it's behind the lot line. So there's two different lines we're talking about, a building line and a lot line. And I believe their tent is 15 feet behind their front lot line.
And the whole point is to make sure it's safe for people.
Right,
So
we
they're
wanna
not gonna
make
get
sure
hit
that-
by cars, they're not
Exactly.
gonna.
We want to make sure that it's far enough off the road that it's going to be safe for everybody.
Right.
So that's why I inserted the language, or located in such an area that is approved by the building department or fire department. Because maybe somebody might come and say, all right, I want to put up a tent, and they can't quite make that 15-foot push, but they can do, 12 or 13 feet, and depending on the scenario, it's totally safe. So that's why I added that language, so we can give everybody a little tiny bit of wiggle room if the scenario works out where it's still a safe situation.
Kathy, I've got a question. I don't have a problem with this, but if it's residential and it's 201 feet, I don't see in here, maybe it's a separate process, but how soon does the tent have to be erected? When would the village send out someone to inspect it? So for example, if I'm having a party on Saturday, do I have to have it up by Friday so that a village employee or village person would come out and take a look at it? It's a lot of
Yes.
times people don't put their tents up until the morning of their event, so that's on a Saturday. Maybe that's a different conversation, but I'm thinking about if we're gonna
Well,
have to have these-
procedurally, if that were gonna be the case, if they couldn't get it and put it up till Saturday, they'd have to make arrangements with the fire department and have the fire department come over and take a look at it. Because building department doesn't work on the weekends generally. So, we would have to.
Ultimately, yes, you would have it installed Friday, so it
Yeah.
could be inspected, but.
Right, but if it can't be installed Friday, then they would have to make, like I said, make arrangements with the fire department. But usually for commercial uses, but to your point, residential, right? Most commercial businesses would have their tent up a day in advance. Because a lot of them would have have an electric installed, they'll have tables and chairs underneath it, so they have to get the floor plan and everything reviewed and approved by building and fire, so they would have to have it done during the week, during business hours.
I was just thinking more from a residential perspective, the burden we're putting on them if we're not clear to say, you have to let us know that it's going up on Saturday, we have to then make arrangements with the fire department to come over by a certain time. These things need to probably be clear if someone is applying for a permit or inquiring about a permit, so that they know this well in advance, because as we've all done parties, this is the last thing that, you know, would cause me great anxiety, like, oh my God, what if I don't pass and I've got, you know, trying to put up this tent.
What's the general rule for permits? Isn't there a timeline on our website on how many days in advance they have to submit permits?
Well, it changes. The timing to get a permit approved changes all the time depending on how many permits we've gotten in the building
Right, but
department.
don't we
that they're
tell people
processing.
that your permit should be, doesn't it say 7 days?
I don't remember.
I thought it said 7 days in advance, that it has to be,
Yeah.
you know, it may require up to 7 days to process. Now, it
I
might
mean,
be.
do we have to put all these procedural things in the ordinance, or should it just go on the application?
It should probably go on the application. It should be probably posted on the website.
Oh,
to
it'll
let-
get posted on the website.
I
To
actually
let
think
people
it
know,
is.
to remind people that they have to get that permit in early.
I think the permit days are on the website. That for a permit, must submit a permit within set, you know, may take up to 7 days to approve is what for some reason, I think that's what
Right.
it says.
Okay, no other questions or issues? We'll have to put the timing and those requirements in the tent application. And then I'll make the revision to the size at the very beginning of the document. And then I will pass on the final version to everyone and give it to Maria to put on the consent agenda for next week. All right. I sent you guys all the event ordinance. This document still is a work in progress, and it still needs a lot of fixing, still needs a lot of work. But pursuant to our last discussion, I went through it and I updated all of the definitions that we discussed. So now we have a definition of venue. Doesn't matter if it's in a commercial or an industrial zone, it's just an event venue. We've identified property owner, because the property owner is different than the venue owner. Property owner and venue owner can be one and the same people, but the venue owner is actually the business owner. They're actually the person who owns the event venue business. They could also be the property owner. If they're not the property owner, then that means that they would be a tenant or a lessee of the property owner. And then the event sponsor would be, I guess, what you would consider the short-term, one-day subtenant of the venue owner. And the event sponsor would be the individual who would be responsible for coming in and filling out, you know, the special event application, saying, I'm going to have a birthday party over here at this location, you know, on Saturday. And they would be responsible for filling out the application. And then there's the definition of event. The original document had separate definitions for private event versus a special event. I wasn't sure, so I kept it that way. I cleaned up the language a little bit. I don't know if it really matters. I don't know if it matters if it's a private event or a special event. Private event, the definition is more along the lines of a family type of event, you know, just like a private party, whether wedding, reception, funeral luncheon, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, communion or confirmation party, a quinceañera, birthday party, anniversary party, family party, holiday party, where food or alcohol may or may not be served. And in a private event situation, food and beverages, whether it's alcohol or not, are being provided to the guests, just like you would provide in your own home, okay? It's by invitation only, there's a finite number of invitees, it's not open to or advertised to the general public, there's a primary purpose, and the emphasis on the private event is on the event itself and on its participants or beneficiaries, and not on the consumption of alcohol or entertainment. And it does not include, both of these definitions have the stipulation that they do not include activities requiring adult use registration and certification. A special event, on the other hand, could mean a fundraiser, a vendor fair, a bridal expo, temporary amusement or planned temporary, this is not my language, temporary amusement or planned temporary aggregation of attractions or amusements. I don't even know what that means, but that was in the original draft, and I'm happy to take that out. Oh, shoot, I just lost my document. Okay, give me just a second, sorry. There we go. Okay, so definition of special event is slightly different than just a private event. Okay, and in a special event, like, let's say if it was a fundraiser, somebody wanted to rent out an event venue and have a fundraiser there for muscular dystrophy. People could pay an admission fee, they might have to pay for food and drinks, so there you would have a fee, okay? So a business license would be required, and that would be the responsibility of the venue owner to secure a business license, because they're a business owner like any other business in town. An event permit would have to be applied for. The event permit would be the responsibility of the sponsor. I don't think that's clear in this language, so that will be changed, okay? And then we go into the whole rest of the document from paragraph D to the very end. A lot of this language needs to be cleaned up. There's some that, like, from paragraph D beyond, there's a lot of duplicate language, so I need to print this out and go through it and eliminate where some of the duplicity is. But also, there are some responsibilities that are the sponsor's responsibility, and some that are the event venue owner's responsibility. So
Did you find out what the indemnification agreement was?
I have no idea.
That would be that the individual cited as being the event holders, whether it be the event
That's the
venue.
sponsor.
Right. They agree that they will protect the village for any liability that arises from the
Okay, but
event.
who's got that document? I'm not drafting that document. So is there such a document? Should it be attached here as an addendum? I don't
it
know. Or
probably
do we
should.
just attach it to the application? Or should we just put
Should
should we
probably
just
be
put
a
indemnification language in
a
the
paragraph on the
application?
application, yes.
Okay, well, can you provide me with that, some indemnification language? And do we have to stay here that they're gonna sign an indemnification agreement? Because if it's in the application, then, Nick, do we have to state it in the ordinance that they have to assert to this indemnification language, or can we just have it in the
No,
application?
just the way it is right now, saying that they shall supply an indemnification agreement. That's sufficient.
Okay. I believe that all of the other requirements, again, it's kind of out of order. There's a lot of under section E, which is restrictions, there seems to be a little bit of duplicate language in there. That's duplicate in section D. I just have to go
Under
through-
regulations B, I think that should probably say, rather than special event liquor license, in light of the new village ordinance, it probably should say the applicant has obtained the appropriate liquor license under the code.
Mhm.
There is no special event liquor license.
Okay.
There's a festival license, permit,
A festival permit?
yes.
Where's there a festival permit?
In the new liquor license.
There's a liquor ordinance.
So they
excuse
have
me, the
to-
new liquor ordinance.
Wait, they have to get a festival permit?
No, maybe they can get, it depends on what they're going to do and what they're gonna serve.
Okay, well, I'm not even gonna reference any of that, I'm just gonna state that it's their responsibility to look at the liquor
Right,
license,
as
and they
I
gotta
said.
apply for whatever liquor license they're,
All that B needs to be changed to is to say, rather than the applicant has obtained a special event liquor license,
Mm-hmm.
should say the applicant has obtained the applicable liquor permit.
okay, but again, it's not the applicant, it's not the
Or-
sponsor, it's the venue owner. The venue owner is
Oh,
gonna be,
yes.
right?
Yes.
It's the
Which-
venue owner that's gonna be responsible, not the event sponsor. So,
It would apply to everyone who's trying to sell liquor.
but does the sponsor have to get, okay, remember, the event sponsor is the person who's renting the place for one day. They're not the ones who have to get the liquor license. It's the venue operator that has to get the liquor license, because we put language in this ordinance, it says, no BYOB. So I can't have a birthday party and bring in a 12-pack.
Correct.
If I'm gonna rent this venue
I'm
for a
talking
family birthday party, I have to buy my alcohol from the venue. The venue operator has to provide me with a, what kind of bartender? Basset-trained bartender that is gonna dispense liquor to my guests or sell liquor to my attendees.
Okay, so it's under the restrictions, no permit shall be issued for any event herein unless. So the operative language is the event herein.
Correct.
So if we go down to now the paragraph referencing alcohol. If alcoholic liquor is to be provided at the event, one, the applicant has obtained a special event liquor license. There is no special event liquor license.
Right.
So that should say.
That's why I put a question mark there.
The appropriate.
And highlighted it.
The applicable liquor permit.
Okay.
And above that, it does reference the venue owner, so, so that's good.
Right.
So it's the
Okay.
applicable
Well,
liquor.
I'm gonna go through the rest of this and make all the appropriate revisions. And what I'm just gonna send everybody is a clean copy, so we gotta start all over. I'm not gonna send a red line, because it's gonna be too
hard
much
to
red.
read.
It'll be too hard to read,
All right.
okay?
Can I just ask one question? Can I ask one thing? Can we make the, not part of the ordinance, but can we make it part of the process that whenever one is approved, a copy gets forwarded to the police chief?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Under E, it says, for any sponsor other than a natural person. What does that mean?
That means a corporation.
Oh, corporation, got it. Shall apply to every principal officer, got it. Okay. All right, so that's all I have on that. Not gonna belabor this. But do want to scroll down real quick to section 4, because originally, this was only gonna allow event venues in the business districts. And it's been expanded to also include the office industrial district. Is there an issue with that? I mean, our office industrial district is really small. It's basically down Waverly Avenue. So,
As long as they have parking.
yeah.
Anything else?
Not at this time.
Thank you. All right. Trustee Kilby.
Okay,
Got
thanks,
lots
Mayor.
on the agenda here.
Okay, before we get to finance, I have 2 items, and one is that tomorrow we're going to have the Natalie Creek's Trail Steering Committee meeting here at 2 p.m., and we can find out what's going on with that process as far as permitting and the whole ball of wax. The engineer, Dave Landwehr from Terra, is going to be here, and the other representatives from the different towns who are members of this committee. I don't see anybody else, and we'll be interested to see what's going on with that. Number 2 is the South Suburban Land Bank had their quarterly meeting on June 23rd, and there's a number of things that came out of that, but two things that just want to briefly touch on is one, we appointed a interim executive director, James Allen. He's on the board of the Southland Development Authority. His expertise is in banking, which is never bad when you're dealing with real estate. The land bank is, a lot of the processes are growing and getting more complicated, so, they had to hire on an extra person. Sounds like he's an excellent person to do the job. Number two is, the building department is talking about possibly going through a abandonment process on some residences and possibly demoing them, is that right?
Which residences? The Kinder.
Kinder and,
I'm sorry. Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, no, Kinder is not an abandonment. Kinder is
Demolition?
demolition or we're pursuing a demo order.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
the same abandonment that we.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing is that.
And we hired Caitlin Sherrill's firm to do that directly for us, not through the land bank.
Okay.
There's a difference.
So the Illinois Housing Development Authority, if the property qualifies, will reimburse us for the demolition.
Wonderful.
That's
Okay.
fantastic.
So,
Do we have to use someone special, or?
no, you don't have to, but
Well,
it
what are
had-
the qualifications?
if there's a grant form that you have to make sure it hits.
Can you get me a copy of that?
Yeah, it hits the marks. It's on their website and
Well, can you just email me
Yeah,
the
I'll get it to you,
organization?
and then
Okay.
so we'll make sure that everything qualifies and we got all the
Mm-hmm.
documentation before we do it. It's after the fact, it's
Fine.
reimbursement.
Will we pay for the demo, then they reimburse
That's
us?
right.
That's
And,
fine.
it covers, holding the property and things like
Mm-hmm.
that too, so.
And as long as you brought up the Kinder property, Superintendent Weiner did advise me today that he is waiting for the sign. He can't, he's provided Caitlin Sherrill's office with all the information that she needs, but he needs to sign an affidavit. He can't sign the affidavit till the property is posted. Daniels has been closed. Hopefully they'll be open tomorrow. So once the sign gets up, it has to be affixed to the home. Then he can sign the affidavit, have it notarized, and get it over before he leaves here on Friday. Otherwise, someone else is gonna have to sign it.
Okay. All right, great.
Is that for commercial and residential, or is that?
It's just for residential. And basically, the application goes through the land bank, so it's basically easier to work with because they help us do the grant application. There's a number of towns who are doing it and works pretty well. And now on to finance. What do we want to do, alternate, or do we want to, let me take my
Whatever you want to do, then.
all right, I have two things myself, and then we're going to do a little act here, but no, never mind.
A dance, a song.
First, the first thing is that we want to approve an engagement letter for Lauderback, our present auditor, to do the 2021 audit. They've already done some work on it. It makes sense to let them complete their process, and then after that, we'll talk about where we want to go with the auditor. Even so, we probably won't see the audit until the end of the year. But I'd like to have that put on the consent agenda for the next meeting. The next item is slightly more complicated, but it has to do with credit card fees. I think a lot of us have had the experience of walking into our favorite restaurant and going to the register and having seen a sign saying, we're going to add 3% to the bill if you use a credit card. The credit cards, especially the ones that get reward points, are very expensive to any organization who takes them, and 3% of the revenue that we get is deducted by the credit card processor. We don't see any of it. We're not making any money off of it, but it is deducted as a fee that would go to the charge card company and the credit card processor. Last year, fiscal year, the Village of Midlothian it cost us over $45,000 to process the credit card fees and miscellaneous cards like debit cards, which are practically nothing. Over 4 years, it cost us $145,000. So we'd like to eliminate that cost if we can. It's just too much. In the old days, it wasn't any big thing, but now it's getting to be a thorn in our paw, as we say. So starting September 1st, we'd like to approve that we would add a 3% convenience fee to people who pay by credit card, either online or in person here at the Village Hall. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can pay by different ways. A debit card, no convenience fee. E-check, no convenience fee. ACH, where you tell people to withdraw something like you probably do with some of your utilities at a certain time, no convenience fee. And of course, good old, if you want to pay in person with cash, no convenience fee. And if you want to pay by check, either by mailing it in or in person, no convenience fee. But more and more people are using our online website because it's convenient. It's 5 minutes, you're done, fine. So the choice is up to you, but the Finance Committee has recommended with the prod of Treasurer Britton that we would like to approve starting September 1st of this year to add a 3% convenience fee to anyone who pays a village bill by credit card, a reward credit card.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
That would even apply to any customer that comes to the window
Yes.
here at Village Hall to pay with the credit card?
yes. Now, we do have a couple things to nail down, and one is we don't have our processor actually nailed down quite yet. We have two separate charge card companies now, and we'd like to get it down to one, just so it's less rigmarole. It's hard enough to try to balance one of them, and so we'll get that nailed down. I think PSN, who is our online processor, can also do our in-house processing too. But I'd like to have that put on the agenda for next week also, so that we can approve it and give everybody warning about that. There will be communications. We were talking about ion water, so on and so forth. There will be a bunch of reminders about that too. And it will be, I believe, also on the water bill for a few months, just to remind people how they pay affects how much they actually pay.
And just to clarify, Trustee, Treasurer Britton duly noted that there is a statute under Illinois law which prohibits municipalities from charging fees to credit card payments in situations in which the fee is not charged to them from a credit card
Yes.
company. So the fee would
Yes.
have to be the same amount or
Yes.
less
Yes.
as the credit card company
Yeah,
charges us.
we believe we're being charged 3% right now.
Okay.
Now, if that's not true, we're gonna have to lower it, but it has to match up to what the credit card processor deducts from
What
our
our
bill.
cost is, yes, what our cost is.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. I'm gonna throw it now to my partner here.
Thanks, Don. Just a couple things. We've been discussing our appropriations ordinance for fiscal year May 1st, 2022 to April 30th, 2023. A copy of that ordinance is on board docs for everyone's review. We will be having, and we will be asking for this to be on our agenda for approval next week.
And there will be a public hearing prior to the meeting
Is it prior or is it at 7? What are we doing?
At 7.
It's
At
at 7.
7.
So at 7, we'll do a public hearing and then we'll go right into the village board meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
We're
sir.
also gonna be approving the budget separately,
Yes.
but that doesn't need a hearing.
Correct.
Not needed here.
Correct. So did anybody have any questions on the appropriations ordinance?
No.
Okay. Next, we have our, Don took care of the fiscal year engagement, our manual check policy, our manual check refund policy. This is a policy that we're setting forward to be able to refund monies to basically residents. For example, somebody shuts off their water and they have an overpayment, or somebody has other utilities that they've paid for, deposits for cages that they've rented from Public Works, and we have to refund that. This is going to be the policy that we use going forward. We've been working on this in the Finance Committee. I think we're pretty much at that point. Did anybody have any corrections or changes to this policy? Then if we could have that on the agenda for approval next week.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to have it before the board meeting, yeah.
Okay, next, our village sign-in policy, and just so everyone kind of knows, in connection with doing village policies for, creating a village handbook and having an employee manual and things like that, we're trying to get all of our processes and policies documented so that it is neat, and this kind of goes in connection with that. The sign-in policy is another policy that we're creating for employees for signing in and out, in addition to their payroll form that needs to be submitted to our treasurer. So this, again, is a policy that came out of our Finance Committee meeting. We've made a few changes. Did anybody have any questions on the sign-in sheet or the sign-in policy? Then I'd ask for that to be put on the agenda for approval next week as well. Next, we have the TIF note. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed that we currently have, under our TIF, our 147th Street TIF, the Ricky Rockets TIF, we currently owe Ricky Rockets, or our agreement is to pay them off over the next 10 years, I believe it is. And after talking to the village attorney, to avoid paying interest, we are going to pay that note off early at a savings of, I think it was about $127,000. So, did anybody have any questions on that? I believe we discussed it at the last two Finance Committee meetings as well.
Do we have to state the amount, Attorney?
The amount that we're paying.
During when we approve it, we have to state the amount,
My
village expenditure.
my opinion would be yes.
So,
It could be phrased
Principal plus interest.
yeah, it's going to be
principal and it not.
minus interest.
You could have not to exceed or whatever, but
Right, because we're not going to pay the interest.
Now, can I
The
ask a
principal.
question? The village has the right to pay this to Ricky Rockets without them saying, no, we don't want you to prepay it, right?
So I
Is that
did ask
correct?
the
We don't
village
need their
attorney.
We don't need their permission to do this?
The village attorney told us that we are within our right to pay it off early without a penalty.
Okay.
Am I correct?
yes.
Okay. Then I would like that to be on the agenda for next week. And the last thing that we have for tonight is kind of a little bit of everybody. We are in the process of posting the new job description for the full-time position in our finance department. I have the job description on the agenda this evening, just so everybody could take a look at it. We changed it from a full-time clerk position to a assistant treasurer position, so that this person could take on additional duties and additional responsibilities. So that's why I put it on this agenda, because we did change some of the job duties in the description. Does anybody have any questions? Kathy did give me a couple good feedbacks. I'm going to forward those to add to Treasurer Britton. And I have a couple just minor changes with regards to some things that I will be adding on as well. But I will send a final copy to the board before the next meeting, so you can review and let you know what the simple changes were. Then I would ask for that to be on the agenda for next week as well. And did you have anything else for finance?
We're gonna have to find out a way of
Yeah, the TIF,
finding out how much this position is worth too.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing, so that may necessitate a, I don't know if it'll necessitate closed session or not, I better watch out, but, one way, one way or the other, we have to determine, because this is an entirely new position, and I don't know if there's
And I-
comparable positions
And that's what
elsewhere.
we were gonna say, is I was gonna have Treasurer Britton look up and see what those positions are going for in other areas. Treasurer Britton, can you get us an exact dollar amount to be paid off, say by the end of, if we pay it off by the end of July?
Yes, I'll give you the outstanding principal
Yes,
as of,
probably we'll need to put it on the board, on the agenda next week for approval, and then have it on the bills list, right?
do we have to have it on the
I don't know.
bills list if we approve it next week? Yes.
Not if we already approved it, no.
Then we would
It
do
would
an
not,
annual
would not
check?
go in the bills list, because we already approved it.
Right, right. So then should I put it as of next Friday or something? That'd be the,
That's fine with me.
Yep.
yeah.
And that's all I have for finance too.
Well done, trustee Kiley. You made it through that pretty quick.
Tag team, sir.
Trustee Crowley?
Just a couple things tonight. First, I actually have a question. One of the criterias for committee members is that everyone has to have the OMA certification. I went on the Attorney General's website a number of times, and that certification has not been active where you can't
That's
take the
correct.
class. Does anybody know what we do in that scenario now?
Wait, say that again?
It's not on their website to
The
take.
Open Meetings Act
It's
certification?
not on the state's attorney's, or the state attorney general's website anymore?
It's on there, but the link is broken.
Well, the link isn't broken, their whole training system is down right now.
Yes, whatever it is,
Right.
it doesn't work.
Oh,
It's not a technology issue, they know about it, it's down.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll come back to plan.
We hope so.
So what do we do in the meantime to be compliant?
I don't know any other resource for OMA. They're the one that set the rules.
Yeah, the only one who would find us liable of that would be the public counselor's office. And we did contact the public counselor's office?
They're aware of it.
They're aware.
They put up
Okay,
the
so
notice.
I imagine that they probably will be considerate in understanding that that's why
The-
we have.
The website actually states the Public Access Counselor's electronic training curriculum website is presently being repaired. Therefore, the OMA electronic training as well as the Freedom of Information Act electronic training are inaccessible. There is no set completion date for the website repairs at this time. Please note, public body members and designees are not penalized for failure to complete the electronic training while within the statutory time periods.
So we don't have to find another alternative
No,
for
correct.
that?
No, that's what I presumed that they would do.
Perfect. I also wanted to just let everybody know, the police clerk position that was posted did close on the 5th at noon. Chief Delaney and I will be setting up interviews, and then Mayor, if you'd like to do a second interview with us, just let us know. National Night Out, August first Tuesday in August, which is the 3rd, I believe, right? Yes. Second, sorry. It'll be August 2nd. We have, our committee, our Community Policing and Safety Committee is working very hard. We have a lot of great events planned. I hope everybody can join us. I ask everybody, please share it with your neighbors, talk about it. It's a great free event for families, and it will be held at the Greens again this year. And last but not least, I hope people have been driving by the home of the future new police station and seeing all the work that's going on. It's really exciting. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. How'd the plumbers do? They done okay, do you know?
So they didn't pour the floor, all they did was the foundation walls.
Right.
So they're gonna be doing all that work this week, and you should see the brick going up Friday and all of next week as well.
The brick.
On the
Walls.
on the walls.
How can we do brick if there's no frame?
They're doing the bigger bricks before you do the fascia brick.
Like cinder block?
Yeah,
Yes,
Cinder Block
Cinder
will go first. They have a,
Oh,
they have a name for it, I forget what it's called.
Cinder Block.
CM, whatever it was.
Center block, okay. All right. Phew. My God, they put the brick up. Okay. Nothing else? Trustee Crowley?
Nope, that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Attorney Valdez?
Nothing except the approval of the settlement agreement under your report.
All right. All right, under my business, apparently Superintendent Sperry is paying attention to the meetings. And he relays that the carpet isn't finished because there was a back order on the squares. They should be delivered soon and carpeting will be completed soon. And the other item I was talking about is community project funding request on our behalf for the water main replacement for 149th Street and Pulaski Road. Project amount was, hold on. Project amount was 1.33 million, and it looks like we will possibly be awarded 1,064,000. So that's a little lower, but 1.33 was the engineer's estimate, so maybe we can get it done without any extra cost. So,
Mayor, may I interrupt? I also received some news that the ordinance for the permit for any permit in the building department, they have up to 15 days to approve
15,
permits,
okay.
so we'll have to make that.
we knew there was something in there.
Yep.
Didn't know if it was 7 or 15 days. All right, thank you. All right, under my agenda, also, I'm looking for a motion to approve the hiring of the substitute backup hearing officer, Vincent Portlock, for the July 6th. Oh. We're just hiring him to be a backup because our regular hearing officer will not be available for the next hearing,
For the year?
No,
for this,
just this month,
next week, this month, right? Yeah.
just this particular hearing
For July 11th.
for July 11th. That's the only day he won't be here.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Crowley,
Aye.
Trustee Hilly,
Aye.
Trustee Burbett,
Aye.
Trustee Caveney,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Next on my agenda, I am looking for a motion to approve the authorization for our insurance counsel to enter the settlement agreement that we discussed in closed session in the independent administrator of the estate of Jamel Robeson versus the Village of Midlothian. I think that's everything I had to say, right? Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the settlement.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please. Clerk Moscow.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Hilly,
Aye.
Trustee Burbett,
Aye.
Trustee Caveney,
Aye.
Trustee Crowley,
Present.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you all. Just one last quick thing. I signed off on the VFW's liquor license this afternoon and noticed that it was a $1,400 fee. I believe I have to get the board's approval to reduce that fee. So can you put it under my agenda next week, Maria, to ask for a reduction in the VFW's liquor license fee to $100? Does anyone have a problem?
I thought, Nick, didn't we clarify it so that it could be reduced by the liquor commissioner?
Not specifically, no. Not specifically.
First of all, does anyone have a problem with me asking you to lower it to $100?
No, but I thought for the, I
I
don't
thought
have a
so.
problem with it. I thought we had language in there that allowed for the
There's a-
VFW and for festivals and things like that, fundraisers, that we could reduce that.
There's a provision for the mayor in the interim to do that while an application is pending, but not to reduce it outside of what the classification charge is.
Then that's something we need to look at, because our intention was to make sure that we didn't do that to the, because I thought that's why we put that wording in there.
Any issues with reducing it to $100?
No, sir.
All right, under my agenda next week, reduce the VFW liquor license to $100 and we'll do a refund check. That's all I have. Clerk Mosco.
I just have one item tonight, and that is we received another block party request, this one for Saturday, July 23rd, from 12 p.m. until midnight, the 152nd block of Lawndale, and is signed by 3 residents, and they have requested the attendance of the police department and fire department.
No mayor?
No mayor.
I wasn't even
No
gonna ask.
trustees. Does anyone have any issues with this? No. Okay. We will send them the okay. And that is all I have.
Thank you, sir. Seeing there's no further business coming from the board, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.